I'm still trying to sort out all of my feelings. This involves me, 23 female, my dad, 47, and one of my best friends, Jess, 24 female. My dad raised me as a single parent, and he's pretty much the greatest dad in the universe. He's my best friend and we do everything together. Hobbies, you name it. He's always the one I go to for advice, to vent. Very approachable, kind-hearted, understanding, open-minded. Anyway, he's incredible. While I was growing up, he had a few short relationships, but nothing lasted more than a month or two. He always told me that I was the only girl for him. But to be honest, I think he never really got over my mom, who died from complications in childbirth. My friend Jess is also one of my best friends. We met at university, have been very close for years, always had each other's backs, and have always been 100% honest with each other. I'm not currently in a relationship, but if I were ever to get married, I'd always thought Jess would be my maid of honor. So anyway, this past weekend, I brought 3 friends up to our family cottage for the weekend, while the weather is still good, and because we're anticipating having to go back into social distancing mode once schools reopen. The same weekend, my dad and his cousin, who share ownership of the cottage with a third cousin, were also up there fishing. It was actually a total coincidence that we were up there simultaneously. I didn't know we would be until this past Thursday. It's a huge cottage though, so no biggie. There's tons of room for everyone. Dad's grandparents were loaded. All had a good time until Saturday night, when I woke up at like 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom, but noticed a light on downstairs and heard people talking. So I decided to go see what was up. Only when I got to the kitchen was I greeted with the sight of Jess banging my dad. I bleached, please. I freaked out and ran back to my room and I was crying, I think. I'm not too sure, to be honest. A minute or two later, my dad came up to talk to me. Apparently, they've been doing this for over a year. He said that she initiated it, which I believe because Jess has always been a bit promiscuous, if I'm being honest. As I said, Dad hasn't been with too many women since Mom died, and my friends tell me my dad is attractive. He also said they've never done anything before when I was around, but they hadn't seen each other since quarantine started. So when they realized we would be up at the cottage at the same time, well, yeah. He told me he would stop if it made me too uncomfortable, but that he really likes her, and the feeling is apparently mutual. I told him I would need some time to process things, so I drove home Sunday morning, and I haven't spoken to him since. Jess has tried to reach out, but I've been too weirded out to respond. I find it especially weird because Jess and I look very similar, to the point that we're frequently mistaken for sisters. My other 2 friends who were there have no idea what happened that night, and they're also looking for answers, but I haven't said anything about it. I don't know what to think about all of this. My dad and Jess are my 2 favorite people, and they do have a lot of interest in common. I'm also realizing in retrospect that my dad has seemed happier this past year than he has in a while, and that Jess hasn't been involved with any other guys the whole time, which is unusual for her. I know the age gap is big, but ideally, I would like them both to be happy. But at the same time, it's just, ugh. I really feel weird and kind of gross about the whole thing. Please help. OP, the fact that you clearly love them both dearly and can see the positives in having a relationship is a testament to A, your relationship with them, and B, your good character. It's fair to want some time to process this. You need to take that time. You have no rush. This isn't going anywhere. There are huge concerns and worries, and I dislike that they kept this from you for a year. But I'm still curious and confused about how they started, when they planned to tell you, why they risked having intimacy knowing you were there. All these things bother me, to be honest. So for now, tell your friend you want some time, and perhaps speak to your dad openly about all your concerns. I suspect that it'll burn out, but I do personally think you're well within your rights to express discomfort and betrayal regarding the situation. Jesus Christ, there are a lot of men in the world, and if she never wanted to hurt you, she would never have slept with your father behind your back for a year. There are just certain things that true friends don't do, and that's at the top of the list. And frankly, your father should have known that too. You should have been more important to him then getting with your best friend. What was the game plan if you didn't catch them? Were they never going to tell you? Heck, I'll say this entire thing was okay, except for the not telling part. So this has been going on for over a year and nobody said anything? Take some time to yourself and think about it, OP. But a year is a long time, and that would personally breach my trust. Just a thought on the part about her looking like you. Do you look like your mom? Or maybe just looks like your mom, and she's probably just about the exact age your mom was the last time your dad saw her. OP's mom died she was 23 during childbirth. When people die, your mental image of them stops aging. The fact that she looks like you and by proxy, probably your mom, is a big red flag. Is he looking for a replacement for your mom? How long will that last? Just isn't your mom. Update. I walked in on my dad and one of my best friends. I don't know what to do. Thank you for all the good wishes. To all the people asking if my dad may be attracted to Jess because she looks like my mom, I dug out some old photos of my mom that I haven't looked at in years and wow. I never connected it because they have completely different hair, but yes, Jess is the spitting image of my mother. She looks more like my mom than I do. In the meantime, I've told both of them I want a few days to myself before I see either of them, and they're both very understanding. Both have also independently told me how sorry they are and will stop seeing each other. I will make an update post once I've had a chance to talk to each one in person. Thank you all. Two people who love you lied to you for a super long time. Dad might get a pass because Dad, though I would be angry for a long time. I don't know when I would get over it. Friend? Not a friend to me. What she did was akin to dating one of your ex-boyfriends. She should have brought it up before she pursued it. They've been messing around for a year and had no idea the weekend would be together? Another lie. Update 2. I walked in on my dad and one of my best friends. I don't know what to do. Hi, so I don't know if anyone remembers or cares about this story I made last year, but I said I was going to update and never did. Well, there have been some big developments since then. So here we are. First off, updated ages. I'm now 24, Jess is 26, Dad is 48. So after a few days after my first post, I met with Jess again in person, and we talked about what happened. She and my dad got talking on my birthday in 2019. They're both big fitness nuts, and Dad had been looking into getting into rock climbing, which Jess does, so she offered to take him. And eventually, I guess they ended up as sort of an unofficial couple. The whole time they'd been together, they both felt guilty about hiding it from me, but she kept going because she'd never felt as good about any other relationship as she did with my dad, and I believe her. She usually gets bored of guys and moves on pretty quickly, but during that whole period, I don't recall her seeing any other men, which in retrospect was a bit odd. Anyway, they used the lockdowns last year as a convenient excuse to try and end things between them. But then later on, when they saw each other at the cottage, it just sort of clicked back into place, leading to the incident. Jess apologized repeatedly and said it was never her intention to hurt me, especially not the way I found out about them. She also told me after I left, they broke up for good and would not see each other anymore. We both got very emotional and cried. She was so afraid that she'd completely ruined our friendship. But honestly, I was afraid of the same thing. I loved Jess so much, and I didn't want to lose her either. So we agreed to put it behind us. Then a little while later, I talked to my dad again, and we made up too. The thing is, though, I still feel pretty crappy. During each of our talks, I asked both of them if it wasn't for the awkward situation with me, could they see the relationship continuing long term? And both said yes. I would hate to be the one standing in the way of these two, my two favorite people, being happy. So after my talk with Dad, I basically told him if he wanted to keep going with Jess to just go for it, and I would try not to be weird about it. He was resistant, but I assured him I was a big girl and I would be okay. I called Jess and told her the same thing. So they got back together, but officially this time. It was definitely very disorienting and awkward at first for my best friend to be dating my dad. But honestly, they really are a pretty perfect fit, and it just feels very natural now. So what if the two people I love most are also in love with each other? I just don't see a downside. My relationship with Dad hasn't changed at all, and if anything, I feel closer now to Jess than I've ever been. The only difference is that she doesn't share details from her love life with me like she used to, LOL. Not that it'd even be that shocking. I mean, I have caught the live show. It took a little while longer for some of our friends and family to get used to it. Mine and Jess's friends took it fairly well. Some other family members are probably still a bit weirded out, but they don't really say much. Dad's guy cousins occasionally poke fun at him, but that's the extent of it. I sometimes get questions from people who think I'm crazy or something for allowing their relationship, but I just say that they make each other happy, so I'm glad for them. The only person who's still super bent out of shape about the whole thing is Jess's dad, who apparently said he was going to kick my dad's butt. He's told Jess that he thinks it's disgusting that my dad is seeing a woman so much younger than him, but Jess said her mom, they've been divorced over a decade, clapped back and said that's funny because he didn't seem to hold the same opinion when it came to the receptionist at his office. Did I mention I love Jess's mom? One other thing I guess is tangentially related. I joked to Jess one time that since she's dating my dad, she now owes me one, so I wanted her to set me up with her sister. I'm gay. She laughed it off and said her sister's straight, but she'll see what else she can pull. Well, she did set me up with her coworker, a lovely lady, 31, who I've been very happily dating for over 6 months. So now the big update, and the reason I decided to make this post in the first place. About a week ago, my dad invited me over for dinner, just the two of us, and asked for my blessing to ask Jess to move in with him. He said it was wrong to keep me in the dark for so long initially, but he wasn't going to take the next step unless I was okay with it. So I told him it was okay. And last night she messaged me to say he asked and she accepted, so they're gonna do it. I really truly am so excited and happy for them. Anyway, I just wanted to give anyone who still remembers an update and say thanks to all those who offered their support to me the first time around. It meant a lot to me, and some of the responses I got helped a lot to process what I'd learned and seen, but also to help me realize that it's not all about me and my feelings, that there are two other adults here. Yes, it's an unorthodox relationship. Yes, there's a big age gap, but everyone involved is doing just fine, and it's nobody else's business if they like it or not. My dad has no power over Jess. When they met, she was an adult, and they'd barely ever even talked until she was 23. They work in different industries. Jess makes plenty of money on her own, so she isn't using him for cash or connections. Thanks again, everyone. Personally, if it were me, I'd feel more than a little disturbed if one of my classmates was now my new stepmom. But hey, you do you. And hopefully this somehow doesn't backfire, but I think it will. Are you sure your dad loves Jess and is not using her as a replacement for your mom, considering how you've said they look similar? Oh, that's one thing I forgot to address. Way back when this was all first happening, I did bring up to Dad that Jess bears a striking resemblance to my mom. He hadn't noticed until then, and admitted it's possible that it was part of the initial attraction on a subconscious level, but his feelings for Jess now are entirely separate from how it felt towards Mom, and that it's been over 20 years since she passed, and he's moved on. Yeah, both Jess and Dad are incredibly lucky that OP is who she is, because if I was OP, I'm not sure I wouldn't cut them both out of my life for a while. This update gives me the heebie-jeebies, and apparently no one bats an eye that Jess looks exactly like OP's mom did around the time she died. But of course, this is a happy, healthy relationship, right? And people nearly 50 have so much in common with 24-year-olds, right? Right? I mean, it can work. I have an age gap relationship like this in my extended family, where the adult step-parents and step-kids enjoy a kind of peer-to-peer relationship. And the thing is, everyone's now old enough that the step-kids appreciate having a spouse their age on hand to take charge of the fraught parts of elder care, and that's no small thing. Maybe Jess will decide she wants to reclaim her youth, and it won't last. But you know what? They're adults, they're happy. Surely we all have more pressing things to wring our hands about. I'm a hobbyist baker. but my full-time job is engineering consulting. There's more money on the engineering side. When I want to pick up extra work hours, I'm going to do engineering work. But I genuinely like making cakes for friends or events as a surprise, but I don't always. Sometimes I'm just too busy to make one, so it's just something I do if I happen to have a free day before a get-together. I like making them as surprises because if I screw them up, there's no pressure to bring something. But as of recently, many people have asked me if I can make cakes for different events, and I started just saying no because I didn't have the time. Plus, I don't know if I could do designs other people can do justice. I really just make whatever I'm feeling and kind of wing it. But people got so annoyed by that, saying stuff like, "But you made a cake for other person," or "I'm not asking for anything hard." So I started saying that I'm making cakes for commission for special requests, and that I can send them my pricing structure if they're still interested. My pricing structure is really structured around what it would cost to make it worth it to me to spend a day making a cake instead of spending it on my main job. So my rates are, and customer pays the cost of ingredients, a base hourly rate of $150, minimum 3 hours. If the deadline is under 48 hours, my hourly rate is $250. So after I set my commission rates, most people will be like, never mind when I mention a commission at all, before I even get into prices, with only 2 exceptions. My Aunt Jess, who I'm not really close to, came up to me at Christmas and asked me if I could make a cake for her friend's party. I said I'm only doing commission work right now, but I could send my pricing breakdown. She said sure. Then she got really rude, saying that my cakes were nowhere near that good to charge that much, and she could get better at the bakery. I said that she should go to the bakery then. They would have something nice. She got frustrated with me and said she didn't want a chain store-bought cake, and I said there were some non-chain bakeries in the nearby city. She said I was missing the point and that my prices were absurd and nobody would pay that. I said that was okay. I had enough business through my main job. Next, my cousin asked me if I could make a cake for her kid's birthday party, and I said that I'm only taking commissions. She said that my prices were horrible for a kid's party. I said that kids would like a grocery store cake just as much. I was sure the party would be great whatever cake she got. She said that she didn't want a grocery one. She wanted one of my custom designs. I said that seemed like overkill for a kid's party. She said that nothing but the price was overkill, and I was taking advantage. Am I the idiot for selling my cakes for so much? I love how they said I could get cheaper and better at a bakery, but I don't want a bakery. I want you, but cheap. Gotta love family entitlement. Not the idiot, and it sounds like your strategy is working. Not the idiot. If you do anything, and I mean anything, creative as a hobby, and are even remotely good at it, everyone around you expects you to do it for free and has a hard time hearing no. Freeloaders who won't take no for an answer are the worst, and sometimes excessive pricing is the only way they get the hint and go away. Even if you were a baker for a living, asking you to work for free on your time off so they don't have to pay for a business or do it themselves is terrible.